Morning everyone, it's about 8 a.m. and I'm out here in the woods to talk about hammocking. Now the reason I'm doing this video is because my last one didn't come out the way I wanted it to. A lot of the footage was damaged by camera malfunction and it just didn't go into greater detail. And I've made a few changes since then that I'd like to talk about as well. So let's get started. Currently, I'm using this polyester webbing as my main suspension. A sewn-in loop for the tree strap end. So I'm going to start by putting these up. Now, since I am spanning a fair distance here, I'm going to put them up a little higher. And these straps do have quite a bit of reach to them, more so than my my last setup, which I thought was pretty long. Now on my hammock, I have these Omega Pacific wrap rings, also called descender rings. I usually leave those on there when I'm storing it, unless I'm doing a larger backpacking trip, in which case I'll take them off. I'll put them on the loop end of that and use these straps to secure my gear, my larger gear, like a sleeping bag, to the outside of my external frame pack, which is incredibly useful. So there's more than one way to do this. I'm going to show my preferred method. Okay, I'm going to start with the head end. Which in my hammock, it's symmetrical, so it hardly matters. But I like my head and feet not sharing the same spot. So I'll show you again on the other side. I like this cinch bag setup. Hammock just comes out of its snake skin there. Alright, I'm going to show you this again. Talk about it better. Go in like this. Now your options are either go back through like you would on like a canvas belt, but for me, let's go back through once more. I find it to be just a little more secure. So then we adjust it to our preferred height. Then I like to do a quick half hitch because it does like to slip just a tiny bit as it settles back in. Same thing on this side. And this cinch bag here then acts as a bit of a water break in case somehow that isn't sufficient enough. And we can start to remove the snake. Okay, the snake skin's really easy to remove. Just pull it up. And at either end, it does act like a water break in itself. I've never had a problem with water getting into this. And I have been in some pretty bad weather in this. It's a good way to camp, even in thick brush. See, there's no way you could set up a tent or this sort of dense underbrush. This is all low bush blueberry here, so it makes it pretty difficult to camp in this area, but with a hammock that makes that possible. Now let's talk about tarps. Now this one It's a 50-50 mix of silicone and polyurethane. It's the Pariah Outdoor Products Sanctuary Sill Tarp. Now at first I thought it was pronounced Pariah, but it's named after the Pariah Canyon. So that is actually how it's pronounced. Now I hooked this up very similarly to how I hook up my old one. I still use these figure 9 clips to tension the ridge line. So I'm going to start by adding these loops onto the trees. That's the way I like to do it. So yeah, my preferred method is still figure 9 clips by Night Eyes. Incredibly useful to me. Just because they can tension my ridge line, hold it really firm. So I'll set that up on either end. I use one big piece of continuous paracord for my tarp ridge line. This color is kind of out of place for the rest of my hammock kit. It's a little weird. No, I'll half hitch that in at the end to make sure it's not going to slip. Now with my ridge line like that, I spent multiple days without having to retension it at all. Now I've only had this tarp for a couple days, but I have used it in a storm already. Totally weatherproof. It comes with 6 1.5 millimeter Dyneema guy lines and 6 Y-shaped aluminum alloy stakes. And for the price, compared to competitor brands, this is just an amazing tarp. Now the one weird thing about this is the logo is backwards on the inside of it. So I guess you can only see it if it's backlit. Now the way I've been setting this up, I've been tying a prusik knot with any little scrap of paracord or any cordage I can find, which I then tie off to the corner of the tarp. That way I can adjust it tight if I need to. Now, as you can see, once there's tension on the prusik knot, it's not going anywhere. You can slide the knot by hand. I'm sure many of you have already been familiar with that. So one of these on either end. And the same knot right here. So I find the appropriate corner and tie it off to the prusik. Now I can tighten it as needed. I want to make sure the tarp at least covers up to here on my suspension strap. As you can see, this is an absolutely massive tarp. It's an 8x10, so on the diagonal, it gives nearly 13 feet of coverage, which is more than sufficient for this hammock. So at this point, I would guy out these corners. And usually I would never carry stakes with me, but the 6 stakes provided with this are so lightweight that I don't notice them. The provided stakes come in their own cinch bag, as do the guy ropes, the 1.5mm reflective Dyneema. Now it comes with this micro lock, which makes tensioning even easier. Taut line hitch isn't really necessary with this. This takes the place of that, and it's always on there, ready to go. It is a bit of an awkward angle. I'm gonna fix that as best I can. This sapling is just in the way a teeny bit. I think that's as good as it's gonna get there. And we do the same exact thing on the other side. I call that a nice shelter. So as you can see, it's fully pitched. The ridge line is supporting the middle, so there's very little strain on the tarp. Now let's get in and have a rest. I have an hour and a half left to spare. I tell you, Nothing like it. Yep, this is living. Well guys, this is about all the time we have today. I gotta break it down, load it all back onto the bike, and start pedaling off. Thanks for watching.